just like the olden days, huh? What it do? What it be? It's me, Lele, otherwise known as Pyrocynical, with slightly less publicized gay thoughts. And today, I'm here to talk to you about one of the most prolific men in all of history. Some may say he is the first in the East, the first in the West, and the greatest philosopher in the Western world. I'm talking, of course, about Lord Timothy Dexter. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Lord Timothy Dexter, let me give you a quick preamble. Now, in 1748, Dexter was born in a province of Massachusetts that's like slightly above where Boston is. Man had a somewhat normal childhood, was kind of on the dimmer side, if you will, and now this might not be entirely his own fault because he did drop out of school at 8. Now you might be like, oh, well, this was the 1700s, that's a relatively normal time for a guy to drop out of school. Not really. Not really. It's the equivalent of having about a second grade education by today's standards, which made him, well, relatively dull. When he turned 16, he decided to go work in the leather industry. Suffice to say, his life was relatively normal. But there's something very not normal about Lord Timothy Dexter. My man had a calling, if you will. A calling to be absolutely unfathomably wealthy. So let me tell you how he did it. When he was still a young, attractive bachelor, and only looked just a little bit ridiculous in his pre-Revolutionary War America gigantic hat, he decided he was going to marry an incredibly wealthy widower by the name of Elizabeth Frothingham. Yes, that is her actual name. Now the cool and, well, arguably not that cool thing about the 1700s was, if you were a poor man who married a rich woman, that made you a rich man who was married to a poor woman. So with his newfound fame and fortune, he decided that he was going to be a socialite. And Lord Timothy Dexter, did he do a good job. This was right around the time that the Revolutionary War was happening. For those of you who don't know what the Revolutionary War is. God, how do you not know what the Revolutionary War is? You must have dropped out of second grade like Lord Timothy Dexter, but whatever. America versus Britain, America fighting for their independence, America won in the long run. But America had to pay their soldiers, and the whole point of a revolution is to completely separate from your mother country, and so to pay them in the mother country's currency didn't really make a lot of sense. So the 13 colonies, or what is now known as America, decided to come up with something called continental currency. Essentially, a completely useless and completely worthless that was backed up by, well, completely nothing currency that Lord Timothy Dexter just needed to get his grimy little hands on. And no one really wanted continental currency, and so when soldiers were paid in it, they would sell it for sometimes like 0.5 or even 0.3% of its face value. Which is like super low. Lord Timothy Dexter decided to buy all of it up. I'm talking crates full. I'm talking ships full. Hell, I'm talking 12 of the 13 colonies full of this crap. At one point, it was even speculated that he owned the majority of continental currency in Massachusetts. When the Revolutionary War ended, people very quickly realized that the continental currency was going to be worth completely nothing. Poor Lord Timothy Dexter. He tried so hard and failed so hard. He tried his best and he failed very hard. But wait. A man that you may have heard of by the name of Andrew Jackson convinced Congress to honor continental currency with the United States dollar at 1% of the face value. Now that might not seem like a lot, but let me just tell you that if you buy something at 0.3% and it immediately becomes worth 1% and you bought hundreds of millions of dollars worth of this currency, then that means that you are now worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Why? Not because he knew what he was doing, but because of sheer butt luck. He becomes friends with a bunch of other super rich people in Massachusetts. He buys the biggest house in the wealthiest neighborhood. And let me tell you, this house is a little bit ridiculous. This house was so huge, it had 40 separate statues of a bunch of founding fathers, including 4 of himself. And 22 of Frenchmen. He had a real weird fondness for the French. In fact, many of his speeches that he did were in French, which nobody spoke. Like he would do speeches in French to a crowd of English-speaking people. Needless to say, some of his wealthier friends didn't really feel like he deserved his mass fortune. So they gave him some relatively bad investment advice. Let me give you a couple examples. One of his incredibly wealthy friends told him to ship a buttload of coal to the largest coal exporter city in America, which is incredibly stupid. But Lord Timothy Dexter, in his all-smart wits, did it anyway. Now, 18 hours before the coal shipment arrived, the entire city's coal miners went on strike. Yes, that's real, and every last piece of coal was bought at least a 250% markup, because of course it was! That's Lord Timothy Dexter for you! Another time, he sold a bunch of heating pans, which is basically like something that makes your bed warm, to the Caribbean, who, by the way, probably don't need their beds that warm because they're in the Caribbean. They didn't know what the hell they were when they arrived. They used them as giant molasses spoons. Now with Timothy Dexter and now Lord Timothy Dexter's amassed fortune, he became incredibly popular and decided to throw some frickin' parties. Some ragers, if you will. Now you're probably thinking, well, what did Elizabeth Frothingham think of all of these parties? Well, it was the 1700s, so it didn't matter what she thought. Timothy Dexter, of course, said that she was dead. But this was easily disprovable because most of the time she was right there. He would tell people that his wife is dead in front of his wife, and when anyone inquired further, he said that that wasn't his wife, but in fact his wife's ghost, who still roamed the house. I looked extensively for more information on his ramblings about his dead ghost wife, and that's it. No one else inquired further. In fact, he liked messing with his wife so much that one day he faked his own death just to see what she would do. She went on to plan an entire funeral for the man, and he continued to play dead the entire time. 3,000 people showed up to the funeral to see, mourn, and honor the beautiful life of Timothy Dexter, who, might I add, wasn't dead. Then, he felt that during the funeral, his wife did not mourn his death enough. So in front of all 3,000 people, he got up out of the coffin, grabbed a cane, and started hitting her with it, and then divorced her! Holy crap, Timothy Dexter. You can't beat your wife at your fake funeral that you had her plan for not mourning enough after faking your own death. You can't do that, man. It's not allowed. It's inappropriate, honestly. So when reading all of this and realizing who Timothy Dexter was and what his life was like, I thought to myself, maybe he knew what was going on and was kind of just a total buffoon. Until I realized something. Ladies and gentlemen, Lord Timothy Dexter wrote a novel. The novel's name? A Pickle for the Knowing Ones. Which you might be like, oh, what does that mean? I don't know. Literally, I don't know. I don't know what a pickle for the knowing ones mean. I don't know. I got the freaking book, y'all. I got the freaking book. It's Lord Timothy Dexter's A Pickle for the Knowing Ones, which sold like freaking hotcakes back in the day, because of course it did. Because of course it did. That's Lord Timothy Dexter. This book is 22 pages of completely manic script. About half of it is spelt right. Capitalization is completely random, sometimes in the middle of the word. And punctuation, there is no punctuation. Throughout the entire book, not a period, not a dash, not a comma, not a hyphen, not anything. They published the book that way. So everyone, if you would let me read you a small prayer that Timothy Dexter wrote for us. I ask forgiveness of the world of mankind for telling me the truth. I mean, no hurt to a fly, only when he bites me, then I kills the fly. If I can, I have been my one Trompter, 14 years. My Trompter is dead. My having so many wounds, in fasts and on my head. I do it to make a good life, to keep my spirits from sinking. Pity me, all good people. Amen. Amen. Now you might be thinking, well, what did that mean? I don't know. All 23 pages of the book are like this. I dare you to try and find a synopsis on this book. I dare you. I don't know if it's an autobiography. I don't know if it's a story. I don't know if it's a spiritual book. I don't know if it's a how-to on good investing. I can't tell. There is not a single intelligible line in this entire book, and I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the all-too-short story of Lord Timothy Dexter, who sadly passed away shortly after writing this book. Might we all say thank you to Lord Timothy Dexter for having such an entertaining life and giving us this video. Thank you for watching this video all the way to the very end. I know how very difficult it must have been to sit, stare, listen, and comprehend everything that I said today. Until next time, peace off, my man.